All right. Good morning, Balance Bosses. I am so pleased to bring you today to the conversation one of the brightest lights and most energetic people I have come across, Dr. Joy Poskozim. How'd I do?
Beautiful. Nice job.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here today. See, she's busy. Her phone is ringing already.
And I really thought I had it on mute, and I so apologize. It's on mute now.
No worries, no worries. That's the life we live in. And we already have
Seriously.
somebody watching with us. Who is
Woo!
here? Hello. Hi. Thanks for being here. It says Facebook user, so I can't know
Aw.
who you are. But before we get into it, just a brief introduction with Dr. Joy. She is a dental director for several nursing home facilities. That's amazing. A dental director. That's so cool, right? And a house call dentist, which we'll get into what that means. But you've had a private practice for over 20 years in Chicago, and you practice integrative healthcare dentistry. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love that. And then recently, in your recent life, you've gotten a fellowship in special care from the Special Care Dental, from the Special Care Dentistry Association.
Yes.
And a certified dementia practitioner.
My CDP.
A CDP. Okay. So tell us a little bit about your story. How'd you get into dentistry? How did this road direct you to this passion for your seniors?
Thank you. So I wanted to become a dentist because I needed braces. I used to suck on these two fingers, my right hand, not my left hand. These didn't taste as good. I don't know. I was 9. But I mean, I was still 9 and I was sucking on these fingers. I was a good kid. I did my homework. I loved school, but my teeth were, you can imagine the overjet. I mean, it was horrible. I couldn't close my lips together. So look, long story short, braces, my orthodontist was willing to cater to a very precocious 12-year-old because all my friends were having braces and they were in pain, right? And I wanted to know why. Why are my friends in pain? Am I going to be in pain? Why am I going to be in pain? And he literally showed me 2 different casts. Oh my gosh, different mouths. There's different kinds of teeth, and they're shaped differently, and they are arranged in the mouth differently. What? Blew my mind. So and then I felt so good about myself after my teeth were straight. I felt like I could smile again and be proud of my smile. It's 4 years later because that's how we did ortho back then, right? I wanted to do that for others. I knew that I wanted to help improve other people's smiles. So the blinders were on. It was all about dentistry. This is what I'm going to do. 5 years of science in high school. Long story short, became a dentist. And I graduated in 1999 when, it was all about the cosmetic. A lot of anterior, beautiful materials were being created for anterior work, right? For the front teeth. We can remember Chandler from Friends. He was on the cover of People magazine, and those chiclet 6 teeth.
Yes.
You could only see those. The buccal corridors were, non-existent. You just saw those 6 teeth. But I mean, that was the image of aesthetic dentistry back then, right? That's what, it's not that we were being focused on, is what I enjoyed to do because these wonderful materials that we could play with. Okay. So I'm doing this, and I'm become a dentist, a family dentist. I am now back in Chicago. I buy my own practice, and doing living the life. My grandmother needs a new lower partial denture. Horrible sciatica. I called it easy chair dentistry, so she didn't feel guilty about me going there and making her a lower partial denture. And the great thing about making partial dentures or dentures is that it's completely palliative, right? It's irrelevant what medications the patients are on. It doesn't matter if they're on blood thinners. It doesn't matter if they're suffering from dementia. We can still communicate with them and explain the why that we're improving, their oral health with the dentures. So I remember inserting it on a Friday. Sunday, she goes to mass with my aunt and uncle, and there's a senior ladies guild afterwards. She had it gone in a while because when she talked, she only really showed her lower teeth. It wasn't up to me to fix her video, so she was just showing her lower teeth. But suffice to say, she was telling everybody, oh, well, my granddaughter makes house calls. And so I get a frantic call from my aunt saying, Joy, just warning you, she's telling everyone in the room. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Long story. Well, another long story short, I get a phone call the next day. And I'm working on a 12-year-old. And then the receptionist comes over to me and she's like, Doc, I really think you need to talk to this granddaughter. I'm like, granddaughter? Oh, okay. Talk to her. Grandmother stroke, 2 years, had not, and not been speaking since. Children, grandchildren, brushing her teeth, taking care of her twice a day. She was very concerned about, her smile and her oral health, but a bad odor. Couldn't figure out what the bad odor was coming from. They knew it was mouth, but they don't know why. Okay. So I go over there. We figure something out financially, and we go there. I go there, and I've got the entire family surrounding me because they're all anxious about what I'm going to find. And they're dentures. She's completely edentulous. She has no teeth. They are brushing her dentures twice a day. Mm. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so she's in the hospital, right? She has the stroke. She's a widow, so maybe the husband knew, but she's now been a widow for a while, so he probably took that secret to his grave. So we got the hospital people, the hospital staff working on her. Now she's home, so now we've got the home health care agencies working on her. We've got the family eager and willing to help, and no one took the time. No one knew. I shouldn't even say take the time. Right. Let me rephrase. Right. No one knew to lift up the upper lip to see if they were dentures, or lower lip to see if she has any kind of prosthesis in her mouth.
So they hadn't been out of her mouth.
They had not been out of her mouth for 2 years. And that was just the aha moment for me. That was the light bulb. My career trajectory went, a complete 90-degree turn, because we don't know what we don't know. There was no neglect in this case. No. I have an entire family surrounding me around this woman's bed because they all really want to help her, and they thought they were helping her, but we don't know what we don't know. And from the hospital to the home health care agency to the family, no one knew that she might have false teeth. So took the dentures out. Fortunately, she just had thrush, and that was what the odor was coming from, and some dry mouth. And we talked about what we could do for her, but that's what ultimately changed my career. So I still have my brick and mortar practice. I'm a true believer in integrative health. I pull from, for sleep apnea, my pulmonologist and my ENTs, and, I pull from my pediatric dentist. I mean, I truly believe that, it takes a village. We all are here to help each other, to help our patients. I am not an island. I choose not to do everything, because I know there are people out there that will, suffice, to do better than I can do in certain situations of dentistry. That's where the integrative health comes in. But when it comes to geriatrics, yes, it really became a grassroots thing. They found out that, people found out about me, that I was eager to and willing to help those that, can't come to me. And so I've been going out ever since. And I think the longest trip one way was like an hour and 45 minutes to see somebody. But once again, totally worth it. I mean, there was a true dental emergency, and if not me, then whom? Right.
So it really developed organically. Like, you didn't plan this. Right?
No, this was not on my docket. Like, I was all about I later learned, the front 8 or the front 10, I mean, that was, I was really enjoying it because I was helping people feel better about their smiles. And now I help people feel better about their smiles, but in a way different way.
Right. And so do you feel like this, was your calling? Do you feel like ultimately this is what you were put here to do in dentistry?
I believe so, because it has opened so many doors for me in my career, in the sense that I am now, like, just this past week, I was asked to help another community. They don't like to be called nursing homes anymore. So community, just this past week, and they found me, I believe, on LinkedIn. I mean, it's interesting how, like, my career and like how social media has kind of come up. We've all, together, because the more that I can promote what I do just organically on LinkedIn with my posts or whatever, the more people are finding me and reaching out to me and having this, this conversation. to help, people with oral health. It's not something that we think of all the time, which is unfortunate. But I mean, we are, we're thinking about things that are important, right? We're thinking about the heart, we're thinking about the lungs, we're thinking about the brain. But what a lot of people don't realize is that they're all connected to the mouth in some way, shape, or form. And both my parents are teachers, so I really feel like educating is in my blood. It's in my genes. So the more I can also help others, help their loved ones and educating them and what we need to do for ourselves as well as for our patients. And in the dental world, the geriatric population is the fastest growing population that we have in the US. And I'm sure that each one of us have had or currently have patients that work in nursing homes, that work in assisted care facilities, that work in skilled nursing, that work in hospitals for that matter. Right. And I think it'd be really kind of cool to think outside the box and have that conversation with them saying, hey, are your residents' teeth being brushed twice a day?
Yeah, because first of all, there's the residents that can't make it into the dental office for sure. And then there's the residents that do make it in. But, there's that time in between, that 6 month that really makes a difference. And if nothing's happening then.
Yeah, we're going to see some major problems. It's so true.
Right. Yeah. And so as a dental director in these facilities, tell us a little bit about what you do. What's your goal here? I mean, you're obviously not the one there every day doing the care. How are you directing this? That
is a great question. So I can only see the residents for the families will allow me to see. So that's number one. So it's not like I can take care of everybody. It's a conversation I have to have with the POAs, the powers of attorney. And then and sometimes a medical POA is not the same as a dental POA. So I have, or my medical POA is the same as a financial POA. Let me rephrase. So I have to make sure that, everyone in the family is on board with me seeing their loved one, and so there's a lot of pre-appointment conversation and educating prior to me even going there. And I'll talk to them all day as long as they understand, we have that, that communication, that time together to explain the importance of my presence there and what I can do for, their loved one. And if nothing else, a cleaning and exam. So that's the first thing. So it's talking with the families of the residents. And then once I'm there, I'm trying to grab as many of the CNAs, the certified nursing assistants, and the caregivers coming on over to take a look at the residents to see what's going on in their mouth, because a lot of it also comes down to lack of dental terminology knowledge. The term bridge and the term denture are used synonymously. And we know in the dental community that is not the case. But I actually had a situation where it was a 6-unit bridge, teeth number 6 through 11, nothing in between. Those are the Pontics. It came out. They were root canaled. 6 and 11 were root canaled with the posts. It came out, and the caregiver is desperately trying to get this thing back in her mouth, thinking it's a denture. Scary. I mean, maybe she could put it back in, but then what if it loosens up again in her sleep and she aspirates it? So having that communication, having that education is incredibly important. So I'll come in knowing, I've already seen pictures. Fortunately, I'll get pictures taken, and so that I can see, and so I'll gather them around, like, okay, so I'll bring my own stuff too that I've sterilized, or I have it in the the sterilization pouches. I'm like, okay, this is a denture, and this is this woman's bridge. Let's take a look at this. Let's look at the difference. And, we try to do, they're doing so much work as it is, right? So trying to pull them for the couple of minutes to show them the difference. And like, it's not your fault if this bridge comes out. The weakest link of all bridges is always the cement. And this thing has probably been in her mouth for 40 years. So fantastic, it's lasted this long. It's not your fault. I can't say that. I can't stress that enough. They think it's their fault that they did something wrong.
Well, and she was probably stressed about getting it back in, like wanting to do the right thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, 110% yes. Yeah. So, so going over that is incredibly important to show the difference. And so I've had, some ad hoc lunch and learns, if you will. with different communities, so that I'm literally passing out, a bridge. I'm passing out, a partial denture. I'm passing out a complete denture, and I'm having them share it so they can look at it, they can feel it, they can see what they're looking at, and so that I can say to them, a complete denture or a partial denture, yeah, we can try to get back in, and if it's loose, there's a reason why. Once again, not your fault if it's broken. That's for me to decide what needs to be done with it, because sometimes it's such a situation that it's old, it just needs a little, or a tooth
Right.
needs to be added, or the part, the clasp needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to make, a lot of times we don't need to make a new one. We can just
Mm-hmm.
repair what they have. And especially those that are suffering from dementia, I've had a situation too where I've made a new denture, and the lovely lady, but she hands it back to me and tells me it's not hers, and refuses to put it back in her mouth. And
Oh.
I've got the daughter right there who's,
Mm-hmm.
obviously very upset about this.
Right.
And, oh, mom, no, it's your denture, and, this is your new one. It's like a new pair of shoes, blah, 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 blah. And, yeah, really difficult for her to get, really difficult for her to understand that this was now her new denture,
Right.
because that pathway, that neural pathway is now, unfortunately, it's no longer there.
Yeah.
So
So I suppose that CDP, the Certified Dementia Practitioner that you got, I suppose you went through a lot to learn how to handle situations like that, right?
yes, as well as how to communicate with the families and the caregivers, and everyone that they are living with,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's community or at home, on how to handle certain situations.
Yeah.
That was a really big part of it for me. I was very impressed with how, that they realized the importance of that, right? That
Mm-hmm.
is incredibly important, to that communication skill, those communication skills. If we don't have that, and if we're not all on the same page, then ultimately speaking, it's the patient that's going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make sure that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, and why,
Right.
and how,
Right.
and when. And we have to be consistent about it. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just, the day before, like the rest of our mouths. It's not just the day before our dental visit, right? Before we go
Right.
in to see the dentist. It's a daily thing, and
Mm-hmm.
just, expressing the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, someone has put your website up here for us.
Aw, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my new website for me being able to, share the knowledge, and being able to communicate and to present on this very topic. So
So let's get into that a little bit, because I think
sure.
that that is really important, because like you said, there isn't a single dentist in the world, or dental hygienist, dental assistant, front
Oh,
desk,
sure.
anyone in the dental world that doesn't have some connection to somebody that's senior.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in one way, shape, or form. And so, how, if someone is interested in learning how you do what you do, what do they do? What do they do to go about doing this? And how can they reach out to you? Talk us through that.
Absolutely. So in the Chicagoland area where I'm practicing, it's a simple matter of emailing me, which is coming down right now, or reaching out to me on my website, and we can have that conversation. If they want to introduce me to a particular community, that is absolutely wonderful. Or to have me on, for your, home healthcare agency, absolutely. That is something that I would be more than willing and happy to help out and participate in.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Also, two, if there's, my own patients, and patients that have loved ones or neighbors that they know that there's someone that is homebound. Let's have that, let's have that conversation. Let's discuss what this particular person may need. Please consider me a referral. For those outside of the Chicagoland area, that website, the email those are both wonderful ways of reaching out to me, and how we can help you and your community, establish, a presence with, nursing homes or with home healthcare agencies,
Mm-hmm.
and creating a list of resources, we can think of it two ways. One, to be considered a resource,
Mm-hmm.
right, as
Yeah.
someone who is knowledgeable in geriatrics, and if nothing else, to be able to participate in teledentistry, saying, hey, feel free, nursing home X, if you have, a situation where there is a denture that will not fit anymore, you feel free to send me pictures, and then we can take a, with under the auspices of the loved ones, the family, the POAs, and let's have that conversation on what this person may need, and we can go from there. We can, the next thing would be to actually, going into the home and having a conversation with the executive director of nursing. Those are the two people that we would be working with in order to establish a presence in the community, in the nursing home community, to be able to treat those that are in need. And then number 3 would be, maybe you just want to, you want to just educate, you want to help to explain the difference between a denture and a bridge, for example. Then being able to, be able to provide that information for, once again, home health care agencies or nursing home agencies, that in order to show that you have, you can be considered an expert in your community and to be able to provide that information. So there are a lot of different ways to be able to help. And once again, you don't necessarily have to actually do the the mobile dentistry, to do the house call dentistry. But if you can be someone who can provide information, you can provide, free samples of the, I don't know, the Biotene, dry mouth products from the makers of GSK, ClassicalSmithKline, I know Sensodyne gives out free samples. Even if you're able to do something, simple like that, that's a really great way of giving back and makes your presence known. I mean, we do that for children all the time, right? We're going into the schools, we're going into.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, we do that all the time for the kids. We can do literally the exact same thing for our seniors.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of asking, hey, once again, nursing home X, I drive by your community every day to and from work, to my office. How can I help? Do you need help? What can I do? You're on the way. What can I provide for you?
Yeah.
I think that is just a really great way of giving back and showing that that we care, and that they should care too. It's not just about us helping them, it's them helping each other provide the care that their residents need.
Right. And I love what you said earlier too about even some of your patients that may be CNAs or working at these facilities, just having conversations with them about what they know, how much they do, and if they'd be curious to learn more, and have you, just bridging that gap with them as well.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, I can just off the top of my head, I can think of at least 7 patients that work in an assisted care community. And having that communication, having that conversation with them, saying, are their teeth being brushed? Is that really a thing? If so, great, fantastic. Do you want some free samples?
Right.
If not, well, who would I talk to about that? And because we both know that's important. You're here. You're getting your teeth taken care of.
Right.
How can we help each other help your residents get that same kind of care? Because that's a thing that can be done. Maybe you don't want to do it, so I don't do it, but I know someone who could find someone to do that kind of care for. Would you think your community would be interested? And who would I talk to about that? That's an email. That's an e-intro. That's easy.
Yeah. Right. And so what have you found when you ask these questions? Has it been, have people just been really, they just don't know? Is that?
Well, and this is the thing. So, and as dentists, I'm sure we've had loved ones or no loved ones that have been in an assisted care community. There was federally regulated for the bare minimum of care for those that are residents. It's called the Activities of Daily Living, or ADLs.
Okay.
Dentistry, brushing teeth, not listed, not included. It is. I've been told that it's a part of like the toiletries, right? It's a part of like the showering or whatever. If it's not specifically stated, brushing teeth twice a day, I promise it will get skipped. There would be maybe a problem down the hallway. someone needs additional care, some additional support, and then what's the number one thing that's going to be skipped in the morning before breakfast will be brushing. And as we know, we want to brush after breakfast. Well, we're hoping to get the brushing in twice a day, period, let alone if it's before or after breakfast. So compromise has to be, there's a lot of compromise, but suffice to say, that will always be skipped. So it's having that conversation with with those that do work in a community or provide home health. Because the ADLs are pertinent to home health as well for those that have chosen to stay in place and stay in their own homes. How important is oral health to the agency? Are the caregivers brushing their clients' teeth twice a day? Is it a matter of priority? Because it's really top down.
Yeah.
It's really from the top down. I mean, there are caregivers who've had a lot of experience, either with their own loved ones or with a previous client where there was oral care required, and so they've obtained that knowledge on their own. But unfortunately, a lot of the times that knowledge hasn't been put into place. That education has not been put into place, and so once again, we don't know what we don't know. And there's a lot of kind of jaw dropping, like, oh my God, I never even thought of that. Like, wow, that's something I should bring up to my my supervisor or my director or my charge nurse or floor nurse or whomever about that. That is a conversation to be had, because like I said, it really starts from the top down. If the executive director or if the director of nursing is not on their list of priorities, then it's not going to be for the caregiver's list of priorities either.
Right. Well, and is there conversation about how this affects a person's systemic health? And do you go over that with them as well, and how that would?
Yeah. Well, and for their own mouths too, right? So, so I'll say,
you're kind of doing double duty, aren't you? You're really educating.
I mean, well, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but absolutely. It's like I'm showing it for their own mouths, right? Because like, well, if you've got plaque in your mouth and you're brushing twice a day, because I believe you, I've known you for a while. You've been brushing twice a day. You've been coming, every 6 months. But if you've got plaque in your mouth and you're doing that, can you imagine the amount of plaque that's in your clients' mouths? Because that's not being done. And then on top of it, they're probably not consuming as much water as you because they're afraid to go to the bathroom and they're afraid of falling. So now they're probably dehydrated. And then so we've got that adding to the level of plaque. And let's even talk about what plaque is. Why are we brushing your teeth twice a day? What is this stuff? And so I'll go into that. It's like, it's bacteria, bacterial poop, and excess foodstuffs that don't get digested. And they're like, oh my God, bugs poop in food. I'm like, and that's what we need to get off their mouths. Eyes open, jaws agape, because, once again, if they're doing the work and they're coming in, for their own selves, and they're coming in and they're still being told that there's one area that's still bleeding, you got the 4s and the 5s, probings, and God, I believe them, they're doing the work, but it's not nearly well being taken care of for their clients. That's a huge eye opener for them. So if I can show us what's going on in their mouths, tell them how it can affect their brains, heart, and lungs, from the bacteria and so on and so forth, then it really becomes an eye opener for them. I find themselves taking better care of themselves because now they know the why. And now they are more open to thinking once again outside the box to their residents, to their clients, on providing good oral care for them. So it can really start with with a caregiver's visit to to your dental office, to anyone's dental office, if that conversation is had, because I promise you it'll they won't always think of it in that way. It's not thought of because it wasn't brought up when they were being educated to become a CNA or a nursing home nurse.
Right. Oh my gosh. So in this sense, this group is all about reclaiming your balance.
Yes.
And you're running a busy practice. You're a director at care facilities. You do house calls. You're an advocate for this. You're helping other people do this. How do you find balance? Where is your balance in, what's your go-to for recharging?
Oh, thank you so much for asking that. Because my husband and I just had that conversation. He's like, this week, the work-life balance, not very good right now. We gotta bring it back, and I need him for that because I don't see it in myself a lot of times. So what are we doing? I realized that I haven't had an actual vacation that wasn't associated with something dental, like a conference or something, since Labor Day of 2019.
Wow.
So that's a long time to not take any time off. And, COVID hit, right? And we were all focused on just making sure we stay afloat, let alone anything else, right?
Right. Right.
Understandable. But now that, we are, getting back into the throes of regular life, I don't want that life actually that I had prior to COVID, because it was intense. It was a lot. And I was letting myself go in the process. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So vacations. I am planning vacations, and I'm very excited about that. We already have one planned that's surrounding a wedding. My cousin is getting married in upstate Wisconsin, so we're going to spend a long weekend there. And Mike's like, and we're including Thursdays too. And I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. Whoa, concept, add an extra day.
Yes.
Mind blown. I mean, seriously, what else do I like to do when I'm home? I like to burn things. I have a fire pit. The best purchase ever was a fire pit. We got a house in September.
Mm-hmm.
Bought a house in September, but we bought a fire pit because obviously it was fortunately still too warm to use our fireplace, which was a necessity. I had to have a wood burning fireplace, in which I do. Okay. So therapeutic. I can't explain it, but just sit there in front of a fire and watch that burn has been incredibly cathartic for me. It is a form of meditation for me, actually. Mm-hmm. My mind clears. Mm-hmm. And I can focus. I'm nurturing this fire, and I am just focused on one thing. I'm not distracted by anything else. That the fire, it is all about that.
Yeah.
I'm not distracted. I'm not multitasking. I am focusing on nurturing this fire and keeping it going with what I have to provide for the fire. I can't explain it, but it is so calming for me. I have the best night's sleep when I and we've got a ton of dead trees.
So got plenty of wood.
Chopping away for me. So he's getting his exercise and I'm gathering up the stuff. That's my exercise, and throw it in there. Maybe have a couple hot dogs, some s'mores, because we can.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is incredibly therapeutic for me. When I'm not doing that, I have found a 15 to 30 minute, depending, I can choose which one I want, a 15-minute or a 30-minute workout that I did this morning.
Awesome.
And that has been also incredibly helpful for me too, because I finally found something that I like to do, and there's a beginning, a middle, and an end for the amount of time that I have, and I still feel like I did something. I feel it in my body, and I feel good, and I feel good the next day too. And I'm trying really hard to do this every day, or every other day. Every other day. Mm-hmm. Morning for me is better. You learn about yourself, you learn about your body, you learn what works for you. For me, for example, working out at night, I'm up until 2 a.m.
Right.
The adrenaline is up, and I can't, no matter how long I take a nice hot shower, it's not enough for my body to calm back down again. So mornings are when I have to do it. So now it's creating my schedule, because I'm the boss. I forget that sometimes. I can create my own schedule.
Right.
Whoa. So now I'm trying. Isn't that crazy?
I know. We forget that somehow. I don't know why.
I know.
That's one of the main reasons we do this, right?
Thank you. Yes. Right. So yeah. So now I'm creating my schedule so that I can actually work out for the 15 minutes or 30 minutes that I want to. Awesome. In those days a week. Those 2 days. During the work week, or 3 days, depending on when I'm doing it. So yes, it is putting myself first. Mm-hmm. It is realizing, finally, I'm 48. How many years has this taken? Doesn't matter. Today's a new day. It's, if I don't take care of myself, if I don't fuel myself,
Mhm.
I'm gonna burn out, number one, and number two, I won't be able to provide the utmost of care for my
Mhm.
patients as well as my residents, as well as provide, nurturing and a nurturing community with my staff.
Right.
And so I'm gonna get that feedback. Trust me.
Yep. Yep.
I will get that feedback, Dr. Joy. You
Something's off
know,
here.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and then there'll be little signs where I'll have a stress ball all of a sudden on my desk at the office, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Getting the hint.
Thanks, Lucy. I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's it really comes down to that because it doesn't just affect me; it affects everybody.
Right.
Without me realizing it, it affects everyone I touch. It affects everyone that I'm involved with. It
Mhm.
affects everyone that am interacting with.
Mhm.
And so therefore, if I'm not good for myself, but I'm not good for anybody else.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so I fortunately have finally, now that we're in our home, I have found different outlets, different ways to be able to um, take care of me,
Mhm.
find things that I like to do that really calms me
Yeah.
and nurtures me in the
Yes.
process.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
excellent. I love those tips. Thank you for
you're
sharing that.
welcome. You're
That's
welcome.
that's what it's all about. And then one more question before we go. Do you feel like this work with seniors that brings you so much fulfillment, it also brings variety to your day, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
hmm It does. I really enjoy going out into the field. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy stepping out of the office
Mm-hmm.
where I can focus. Once again, there's no distraction. It is me with the caregiver and their client, or me with the caregiver and my patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's the three of us or four of us. We are working together to help improve this person's mouth. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called me. There's obviously a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I mean, and then I have my communities where I go in every 3 months or 6 months or 4 months, depending on who needs what type of care. But it's me with them, and the phone is in my purse, and I am with my patients there, and it's a completely different experience,
Mm-hmm.
but it also an incredibly rewarding experience. I
Mm-hmm.
like being on the road,
Yes.
and it's not like I've got any special car or anything or whatever. But I mean, now that we've got the program, the systems in place where, I have my front desk coordinator doing the triage. The financial part of it has been taken care of on them because all I have to do then is when I go there is practice dentistry.
Oh, it's
It's
wonderful.
great. And then the next day I'm back in the office again and I'm seeing patients there and it's once again just as fulfilling. But I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the Tuesdays and Fridays that I get to go out to I get to go. Like this is a privilege for me. I get to
Yeah.
go and
Yeah.
treat those amazing people. Yeah.
That's that's awesome. So, well, I would encourage anyone who's feeling maybe stuck or just almost burned out to explore other ways that you could help, that you could serve, that you could find fulfilling work. And if senior care is one of those areas that you feel passionate about, Dr. Joy is the person to reach out to. So you can email her at the email below, and then we'll put up your website again for them, so you can find out more about everything she does and on her website. So please reach out to her because it is an important um, community that we need to care for, and it brings joy. And I say that lightly, but it brings joy to do that for other people. So
Yeah.
please reach out. Is there anything else before we go today that you would like to give to our listeners? Any other tidbits or anything else we didn't cover today?
Yeah, absolutely. Just really quickly, if you have seniors in your office that are coming to your office, double
Mhm.
check your emergency contacts. Make sure that those are being updated because if it's a widow and their emergency contact is her husband who's been dead for 2 years, if you ever have a problem with one of your senior patients who happens to come into your office independently, there potentially may be a situation where you need to call the loved one or the emergency contact. So that's an extra tidbit there for those that come to your office. Make sure you have those ducks in a row too. And there you go. Helpful hints.
Excellent. That's awesome. That's a very good one. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Absolutely.
I enjoy your energy, your enthusiasm, and your knowledge in this area. So appreciate this very much.
Anytime. It was an absolute pleasure, Linda. Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right. See you guys later. Cheers.